by the Disabilities Act. Why should any member of that community or any of us related to them give you an extension of credit when you have managed what you were allotted with your mandate so poorly?
Thank you so much, Mr. Price. We have another question from social media. Marjorie.
Okay, Janella, Pauline Bain on the JDP website, she's asking, what are your plans to improve mental health services for children and adolescents?
Okay, so when the Labour Party took office 4.5 years ago, one of my first responsibilities was to review the current legislative framework and policy framework for mental health in Jamaica. The truth is that 4 of every 10 Jamaicans at some point in their lives suffer from some sort of mental illness. This is a big statistic. It definitely indicates that we're all affected at some point, either personally or someone we know. Out of that initiative came the Mental Health and Homelessness Task Force, which prescribed an approach to reviewing legislation, to modernizing the approach, to destigmatizing mental health. And we have seen the initiative start over the last 3 years. We've seen a public education program for destigmatization, which is a major issue. We've seen more mental health workers being engaged at the community level. We've seen a shift from institutionalization, which has been has had a negative impact on persons who have been institutionalized, and more towards a community-based approach. And we have seen engagement with NGOs, as well as adding to the fleet for mobility, better mobility, to service persons who have the issues and therefore require help. In addition to that, we have established a toll-free line for persons to call to seek help when they need that help.
Thank you
that
so
work
much,
will continue
Dr.
in the next
Tuftan.
administration.
Team PNP.
Mental illness is no joke. It is a serious thing. The fact that 4 out of every 10 Jamaican is affected speaks to the fact that even in this very room, there are persons who are affected. Certainly not
Absolutely.
Over on this side. We also need to pay attention to the issue of substance abuse, because quite a bit of the individuals who end up with mental illnesses are persons who have abused some form of substance. And so it is important for us to have that public education that teaches persons about the benefits and the harmful effects of the consumption of these drugs that they use, whether it is alcohol, cannabis, or harder drugs. We need to also focus on training the family members to deal with the individuals who are living with the mental illness. If they are trained sufficiently, then they will be able to administer the medication, they will be able to see the warning signs as when the person is going near towards a relapse, and they will ensure that the individuals remain compliant. We need also to have spaces. Not everyone with a mental illness has to be managed within a hospital. Some of these persons will do much better if you attempt to treat them in their home, in an environment that is familiar to them. We need to work on increasing the staff complement, mobile units going out into the communities that can administer the medication to the persons in their communities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell. We will now take a short break, and we invite you to please stay tuned.
The general election debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Proven Flow, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute. The Jamaica Debates Commission presents the General Election Debates in association with Proven, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute, NCB, Panjam, Digicel, Flow, JN Group, and Victorian Neutral Building Society. See the 2 major political parties debate national issues live August 25, 27, and 29 at 9 p.m. Don't miss the General Election Debates presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Okay, just pause it for a second. Okay, what we're having is a Jamaica debate, which is going on at present between the Jamaica Labour Party and also the People's National Party. And it's, what time is it now in the UK? It is actually 3:43. It started at 3 o'clock. Jamaica time. No, 3 o'clock UK, 3 o'clock a.m. UK time, 9 a.m., 9 p.m. Jamaica time. I'm getting my bearings right. It's sort of wake up, you know. Somebody said wake up, and I said I need to shake my head 2 times because the plan was to sort of just take this time to really watch it, but also to sort of engage with it at the same time. Someone asked me how can they comment. I believe there's on the website PBJ. If you can actually, it's on Facebook. You can actually go on there, and I think they're picking up random questions from there. And also it's on YouTube as well. One can actually pick it up. That is how I pick it up as well. And I think that's how people can actually contribute. But the persons who are on tonight, as you can see, they are for the People's National Party, Dr. the Honorable Christopher Tufton, Floyd Green, Minister Kamina Johnson. For the PNP, Dr. Dayton Campbell, Raymond Price, and Lisa Hanna. Let me see if they're back. I'm not in a position to give
COVID-19.
Yeah, not in a position to give any what should I say perspective as yet, but I'm sure persons will be able to give perspective very soon as well. So we'll just wait to see when it is back. Let me just.
It's still here. Always wear your mask correctly while in public places, covering your nose and mouth at all times. Masks should never be worn over the head, under your chin, below your nose, or hanging from your ears. Recovery from COVID-19 can take up to 60 days or more. The mask or the ventilator? You choose. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
On election day, all electors must wear a mask and have their hands sanitized. Electors must observe 6 feet physical distancing and remove your mask when instructed by the presiding officer so you may be identified. You will be issued a ballot along with a pencil and directed to the voting booth. Hand your ballot to the presiding officer and place your pencil in the box for used pencils. Sanitize your hand before dipping your finger in the electoral ink. This is a message from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica.
Jamaica, home of the resilient, passionate and hard-working. A people and a nation who have achieved and defied all odds, working to keep their economy growing, their country thriving, from investments made in innovative opportunities and exports demanded globally. We have a vision, now within our grasp, where Jamaica becomes the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. We will not let go of this vision. We will grow. We will overcome these challenging times and look to the future with hope and positivity. These are special times. The world as we know it has changed, but home will always be in our hearts. And in Jamaica, you can always find a home. Think you know Jamaica? Look again. You will be surprised.
The next person in line, your friend at school or your co-worker, may have COVID-19 and not know because they have no symptoms. You, on the other hand, could be hospitalized for 2 months or more if you become infected. Is it worth it? Stay socially connected, but keep the physical distance. Stay 6 feet away and avoid a hospital stay. COVID-19 is not over. Protect yourself while protecting others. A message from the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The point of wearing a mask is to prevent the spread of air droplets from persons who may or may not be infected. When wearing a mask, please ensure that the mask goes above the nose and below the chin. This might be a bit uncomfortable, but it's for your own safety. The position of the mask is very important. It should not be worn on your forehead, under your chin, or on your neck. Please do not remove the mask when speaking. This actually causes more droplets to be released into the atmosphere. Trust me, if you have on a mask, we will still hear you. When you're removing a mask, try not to touch the front of the mask. If you do, remember to wash your hands or use hand sanitizer. Please throw away the mask appropriately. Remember, partial protection is better than no protection.
elections in Jamaica are now monitored under the campaign financing legislation. Therefore, I implore all candidates, political parties and contributors to adhere to the requirements.
Candidates in an election may spend up to $15 million and registered political parties up to $630 million. Candidates, political parties and contributors who fail to disclose are guilty of an offense and liable to charges and/or a term of imprisonment.
The transparency and effectiveness of our democratic process requires you to be informed and involved.
A message from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica.
We're going digital. The times are changing, and we have to change too. As more and more banks cease to encash checks and move towards digital payments, PATH is examining alternative payment options. We are working with banks and other service providers to find ways to pay your PATH benefits without checks. You might be asked to open a bank account or to select a payment agency. So, get ready and stay informed. For more information, call PATH.
In association with Proven, Flow, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute, Digicel,
Those are some long commercials, man.
JN Group, and
Long
Victoria Neutral Group.
commercials. But I
Watch,
think they're coming back on
listen,
now.
decide, vote.
Okay, they're back.
And welcome back to the
I'm gonna
first in a series of 3 political debates being facilitated by the Jamaica Debates Commission. If you're just joining us, welcome. We now invite Natalie Campbell to pose her question to Team PNP.
There have been 3 more COVID-related deaths and 120 new cases, and the government has said not to panic. How would a future PNP administration convince Jamaicans that you have a handle on the situation?
Well, the first thing is that you have to give the public accurate information. The fact of the matter is that the testing has been the Achilles heel of this government because they have not tested enough. The protocol that we'll put in place, and I spoke to some of it earlier, to ensure that everyone coming to the country has a PCR test 3 days before, that persons from high-risk areas who get to our ports, they are tested. We then will, persons who are negative will have to go into quarantine. Those who are positive will go into isolation. If you're negative and you go into quarantine, in 7 days' time, you'll be able to get a repeat test. If that test comes out negative, then you are released from quarantine. If it is positive, then you go into isolation. We will also ensure that we can lessen the turnaround time for the result from the test down to 9 hours. Currently, you have to wait 3 days or more to get your results done. All it requires is for us to purchase the appropriate equipment so we can get the results done in a shorter time. We will look at the quarantine, which will have video confirmation that persons are staying in their homes, change the geofencing technology to ensure that persons aren't just leaving the phones at home and are out on the road, to increase the number of community health aid persons, to increase the number of volunteers, to increase the training on the collection of samples, to increase the contact tracing, upgrade the medical facilities, and focus on the non-COVID related issues as well. So persons that are not COVID positive
Thank you
can
so
get
much,
treatment.
Dr. Campbell. Team JLP, a rebuttal.
Well, you know, the only unfortunate inaccuracy that took place here tonight, and I'm really disappointed, is the statement by the member to my opposite, blaming COVID-19 and campaigning to Jodian Ferron's death. And it's rather unfortunate, and I think, frankly speaking, he should at some point during the proceeding apologize to the family members. The truth is, Jodian Ferron died on April 24th. The by-election in Southeast Clarendon was on March 2nd. There's absolutely no relationship between the two. And I think that is what causes panic. And we must be careful when we have people's lives to manage and provide leadership for, that we do not court this type of panic. We are doing the best we can, and the Jamaican people is with us as it relates to managing the COVID pandemic.
Dr. Tofton, thank you so much. Vashan has his question to Team JLP.
You promised the establishment of shelters for shelters for victims of domestic abuse on page 43 of your 2016 manifesto. The Gender Minister repeated this promise in July 2016, March 2019, and again in July 2020. You're now saying in this manifesto that the renovation of one will be done by this month. But why did this take so long, and when can you guarantee that these shelters will be operational?
Thank you for that question. You know the matter of gender and protection of our women and children is one that the Jamaica Labour Party and myself personally were deeply passionate about. The fact is that since 1984, Jamaica has only had one shelter, and it's been run by a private NGO, even though we as government support it. Now, the Jamaica Labour Party will deliver 3 national shelters. They'll be child-friendly, they'll provide counseling services, they'll provide training to allow women who are coming from challenging circumstances to reassert themselves and reintegrate themselves and their children safely and confidently in a positive life. The Jamaica Labour Party, however, does have to explain that there were challenges in the procurement. Firstly, when you're establishing a shelter, it has to be in a particular set of circumstances. It can't be anywhere. They have to be in secret locations so that the women who go there are safe. Finding those locations in the 3 counties across Jamaica has been challenging, but we've achieved it. 1 will be open soon. 2 are being transferred. They're in different, rather, 1 is being transferred and 1 is in the process of renovation. We're proud of this achievement, and we will deliver on it in the 2nd term, in its entirety.
Thank you so much. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
You know what I love about the JLP is just how intellectual and contrite they sound in terms of not achieving things over the past 55 months. I really don't think they're on the ground with Jamaican people and what they're feeling. What the PNP has done, we have been revolutionary in terms of helping and protecting women. The Maternity Leave with Pay Act, equal pay for equal work, we are the party with the women's movement. What the PNP will do, because you see when women are in an abusive situation, it sometimes is financial because they can't afford to get out of the home. Our manifesto says we will give women a single income mortgage through the NHT so that they can rent to buy their own home and get out of that abusive situation. We know what it feels like. I don't think the Minister of Foreign Affairs understands it because she's been on a plane for just too long.
Thank you so much. We're now going to take a question from social media, and PNP, you will respond first. Marjorie?
Okay, Janella, what's being asked on social media is if you form the next government, what will be done to reduce violence against marginalized groups?
Lisa said she's on the plane too long.
Can you repeat the question, please?
It says if you form the next government, what will be done to reduce violence against marginalized groups?
Thank you for that question. There are 2 issues. One of the things about the Jamaican budget, which persons need to recognize, the budget is about 800 billion Jamaican dollars. There's about $520 billion towards fixed expenditure salaries and about another $280 billion which goes towards discretionary expenditure. Our PNP administration, through 70 million, 25% of that discretionary expenditure, would use that to uplift and create programs for marginalized youth, at-risk youth. We would take 750 million to retrofit communities for the people with disabilities, and we would even go further because our manifesto and our People's Pledge has something for every sector. Whether you feel marginalized, you feel empowered, or you're just someone who has been unattached or at risk, we will make sure that our social services and our social investments have you at the forefront of our agenda. That's who we are. It's in our DNA. We've done it before, and we'll do it again.
And if I could just quickly, while we still have time on the clock, I think we just discovered why the Minister of Health has done so badly with dengue and now COVID. Perhaps some marketing of, well, let's not go there. But you directed in your rebuttal assertions to me. You seem to always be looking in the wrong direction, Minister. It was my colleague to the left who made the remarks. And the remarks were, by the way, accurate.
Team JLP, you have a minute 30 to respond.
You know, if the PNP could build a country the way you build a story, you'd actually make a good government.
Well,
unfortunately, you can't. The fact is that the PNP is great at telling the Jamaica people what they think they want to hear. They even did it with their manifesto. You had to put in information, tell them all the church you went to, and then it would generate what they thought you wanted to hear. That is a government, or rather, that's a people that you can't trust. Wow. I'm not asking you if you can't trust them. That is a people you cannot trust. PNP is great at making promises. They make grand promises and they sound great. They could actually be called the propaganda national party. They are, however, poor at delivering. This is why the Jamaica Labour Party has spoken about our achievements, reporting to you on all that we've done in supporting persons with disabilities or elderly, building out indigent housing, housing for the poor, renovating infirmaries, ensuring that they have therapeutic parks for now enhanced rehabilitation. We've provided better state care. We've ensured that our vulnerable persons are being cared for in more dignified circumstances. PNP passed some excellent laws in the 70s, but they haven't done much since, despite having been in government for 18 long consecutive years when they had full control over policy and the world was in boom.
Ms. Kamina Johnson-Smith. Natalie now has a question for Team JLP.
What type of assistance would your government, a future government, provide for non-PATH, non-poor relief parents who, though employed, are still unable to fund back-to-school expenses?
Let us hear your views, ladies and gentlemen. Let us hear your views.
Already, the government has already started to roll out our support in relation to our education system. We recognize that it is challenging. We have focused our support on the most vulnerable, which are our PATH parents. But what we have looked is an expanded pool to focus our attention on our schools and providing more support for our schools. In fact, when the Jamaica Labour Party took government, our education system was at about $83 billion. We have moved that now to over $100 billion by providing more per student so schools can do more to support their students. In fact, we moved at the secondary level. We used to give $11,500 per student. We now give $17,500 per student at the primary level. The schools got $930 per student. We have now moved that to $2,500 per student so that there is a greater level of support that can be given directly through our schools to our students and outside to our parents. The Jamaica Labour Party government also started a book voucher system where they helped members of parliament to be able to help parents who are in difficult scenarios by providing them with book vouchers. That is something that we have done, that is something that we are proud of, that is something that has really reached. So we've helped our schools, we've helped our parents, and we will continue that help in the second term.
Thank you so much, Mr. Green. Team PNP, a 45-second rebuttal.
Well, the truth is that half of our school's population is on PATH, and that's not good. When you have a country that is experiencing such hardship, particularly parents who can't make ends meet, it creates frustration and stress. I see it all the time. One of the most severe times for a member of parliament is during back to school, and I think Mr. Green can relate to that. What the PNP is going to do is relieve the burden, give some peace of mind, because what they need are tools to be able to help them. We need to give them the tablets so that their students can actually get the online courses and the parents don't have to stay home from work to give them like a smartphone so them can use it one away. And we also need to make sure they have nutrition, and we need to build out the access points, and that's what the PNP is going to do. We've done it with education, and we're going to do it again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hannah. It's time now for another break. Please stay with us.
I know.
The general election debates are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Proven, Flow, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute, Digicel, NCB, Panjam, UWI, JN Group, and Victoria Mutual Group. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Home internet from all electors must wear a mask and have their hands sanitized. Electors must observe 6 feet physical distancing and remove your mask when instructed by the
Another break. Another break. I said a while ago I should be in my bed. So what that is. Yeah, what's your take on the whole thing? I saw the bit that Lisa Hannah said. What she said, you're flying around, so you're not on the ground. But Lisa did make a good point though about single mothers are those involved in domestic violence. they normally do not have the money in order to leave, and that's why sometimes they suffer in silence. So that's a very good point, I must say, in regards to housing, single mortgage housing for mothers, and for single mothers or single women, in fact. So that is a good point, I must say. It's interesting, and I keep watching it as well to see how it goes. As I said a while ago, I should be in my bed, but just carry on with the process. See some of the comments that people have been making on different sites. Very, very interesting. Let me see here as well. JLP has no regard for people. Raymond Price come across as too sarcastic, insolent to be an effective member of parliament. Labour failed on that. Florida man, I'm afraid because she had over center weekend. She should have breaking PNP high marks tonight. Continue calling them out there. Jamaica, the people are tonight moving them. Lisa saying all we children poor and desperate. Lisa and Christopher Tuffer ain't having a good night. PNP unprepared. They came to make excuse, criticize. Raymond is doing fine. Jamaica is second in America for best response to COVID-19. Team PNP weak and embarrassing. Peeps, you know what to do on September the 3rd. All they care about is power, KMT. I think Nathan need to apologize on the Jordan Ferrans thing. Yeah. I think that bit about Jody and Ferran, you know, sometimes it's not good sometimes to use people who are people who you know have unfortunate situation and bring that into the equation. But they call this politics which is of the silly season at the same time. So we see how that go as it flows. But let me see if they're back yet.
Presiding officer, so you may be identified. You will be issued a ballot along with a pencil and directed to the voting booth. Hand your ballot to the presiding officer and place your pencil in the box for used pencils. Sanitize your hand before dipping your finger.
But at the same time, what are your views in regards to COVID and Jamaica? That's something that many people are talking about. The same election commission, which is Earl Jarrett, I think they're thinking about having some advice whether it should be postponed or not. I take the view now, and I take this view that the election should not be
This is a message
postponed.
from the Electoral Commission of Jamaica.
I take the view as well that just as how countries do not.
Hello. Yes, you.
I hope you can hear me very well.
And a pandemic, we
that countries
you're now wearing a mask,
should not.
You're now washing your hand, and you're not taking the required 6 feet distancing from other people.
You've got to keep going on and on.
How could I really cause
I think in regards to COVID,
you need to stop
people have to keep going
on.
No
mask, no wash, and no distance
up there. What we say, you know what? Stay alert, control the virus,
COVID-19
and save lives.
Yes.
Stay alert, control the virus.
COVID-19, they are same
That is so crucial.
So here, why you?
Tablets for the kids, good idea as well.
Wear your mask.
Because at this time now we're seeing
sanitize
this virtual
your hands
world where children
regular.
are actually not able to go to school.
Keep your distance,
and they have to
please.
have tablets. It's got to be virtual. I mean, eventually.
The Jamaica Debates Commission presents the General Election Debates in association with Proven, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute, NCB, Panjam, Digicel, Flow, JN Group, and Victoria Mutual Building Society. See the two major political parties debate national issues live August 25, 27, and 29 at 9 p.m. Don't miss the General Election Debates presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote.
Beneficiaries. The PATH payment cycle begins on August 24th, and Paymaster will deliver to beneficiaries who normally collect at the largest post offices. Check the Friday Star to find out where you should collect. If your post office is on the list, you must collect at Paymaster on the date set for your name. You will not need a control number, but you must take a government ID with you. For more information, call PATH at 876-922-8007 or check the ministry's website and Facebook page. PATH, advancing your family, developing Jamaica. A message from the Ministry of Labour and Social Security.
Find out where you are to vote by calling the EOJ or checking the EOJ website. Remember to bring your voter ID card. Current voter ID cards are valid until December 2020. Remember, you may still vote without your ID card, but the process will be longer. Listen to the instructions of the presiding officer. Mark your ballot behind the voting booth.
I just saw somebody just send me commented saying that they don't believe Usain Bolt has anything. He's just playing them devil's advocate. And some people believe that he's not infected with COVID. Now, why should Usain Bolt not be infected with COVID? Is he that special? You know, that's the question. Is he? Nobody's that immune from COVID at this time.
To monitor and to provide added protection to those who use the system. Now, as it relates to rural Jamaica, part of that expansion of routes includes moving further outside of the corporate area. And the Jamaica Labour Party does have a plan to further expand that in the next administration, because we do believe that public transportation and an efficient public transportation, even while being subsidized by government, as is the case in most countries throughout the world, is a
I don't know if you guys are picking up this, but I'm getting some sort of feedback here. Like the Wi-Fi is gone, or is it flow issue?
By government, as is the case in most countries throughout the world, is a
Oh, that has nothing to do with me. That must be Jamaica.
At Nationwide, it's all about the story. We're constantly trying to give you the most up-to-the-minute information in the ways that you need it and most conveniently. We know you may have caught a story or a program late, or you might have missed it altogether. So we're making...
Guys, I don't know what happened there, so let me see if I can get this back. Seemed like something there from Nationwide.
And amenities such
Let me
as
go back to
water, light, roads, and good schools, which means...
Let me get it back. Let me catch it back. I think I got it back now. Don't know what happened there. See, I'm streaming from Jamaica. Well, I'm streaming in the UK. Okay, here we go. And we're back. Here we go.
App, the new Nationwide Radio app, keeping you on the cutting edge of social and mainstream media. Available for download on
Android.
I have no idea what is happening there. National debate.
As a segue to the point made earlier about the COVID reality and the impact of schooling, we will not escape the fact that blended learning will become more of a feature of education.
What is 100% certain? Why you? I go do for all of we.
Okay, seems like there's somewhat seem to be some break in the links there, but I'm going to try to get it back somehow. And here we're going to get it back from another way. There's always another way in doing these things. Okay, here you go.
Stop.
I think there seems to be some
mobile units going out into the communities that can administer the medication to the persons in their communities.
Thank you so much, Dr. Campbell. We will now take a short break and invite you to please stay tuned.
Apparently, they're taking another break again.
Are presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission in association with Proven Flow, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute.
Apparently, they're taking another break again. So
The Jamaica Debates Commission presents the general election debates in association with Proven, Scotiabank, National Democratic Institute, NCB, Jam, Digicel, Flow.
anyway, let me see what people are saying here. Why would Mr. Bolton lie on himself? I believe he's telling the truth. Yes, COVID. Yep.
At 9 p.m. Don't miss the general election debates presented by the Jamaica Debates Commission. Watch, listen, decide, vote. COVID-19 is still here. Always wear your mask correctly.
Yeah, I understand.
Covering your nose and mouth at all times. Masks should never be worn over the head, under your chin, below your nose, or hanging from your ears. Recovery from COVID-19 can take up to 6
What we're having again is another commercial.
The mask or the ventilator, you choose. A message from the Ministry of Health and
this, we're still experiencing this woulda, coulda, shoulda. The way to do it, to end the digital divide, is to include public-private partnership. Take, for instance, digital television with entities such as Ready TV that could more quickly place in the homes across Jamaica, including rural Jamaica, and some urban centers too, digital television with the content for self-upliftment, the content that Heart NTA would normally provide in a physical space. The problem with the members opposite is that
Thank
they
you so much,
complain.
Mr. Price. Thank you. Natalie has the next question to Team PNP.
What are your plans to deal with squatting?
Home ownership and titles
Land ownership as well.
is one of the areas, beginning with the National Housing Trust and the rollout of communities such as Cedar Manor, Silverstone, Portmore Pines, Meadowvale, Morris Meadows, and several across the 14 parishes of this island that PNP policies have proven not only in manifesto but in manifestation. In terms of areas where persons are living where their parents and grandparents also live, and they still don't have a route to a title or a title, we have made it clear that we will make even easier the land reform processes that were commenced by the People's National Party, so that, as happened between 2012 and 2016, the greatest number of Jamaicans receiving their titles was recorded. We need to go back to that pace and to surpass that pace and remove the experience of the last 55 months, where in one constituency, for example, one home delivered at $5.9 million, where should have been instead an entire housing scheme. The People's National Party is that party that builds communities, not one home at a time, but thousands of homes at a time.
Thank you so much. Team JLP, your 45-second rebuttal.
The Jamaica Labour Party believes that every Jamaican should own a piece of the rock. That is why we have committed to do 70,000 new housing solutions in our next terms. That's in addition to the 20,000 that we have done in this term, 20,000 housing starts, 2.5 times what the PNP did in their last 4 years. We've also committed that 30% of those houses will be to civil servants, police, nurses, and that 10,000 of those housing solutions will be to young people below the ages of 35. And they will have to pay no deposit. It will be fully financed through the NHT. It's a pity you talk about mismanagement. When we took over the HAJ, it was an $800 million loss. We turned it around to a $1 billion profit. That is why, when you say these things, you can't go back to that part in St. Elizabeth that you referred to.
Okay, we have another question from social media. Marjorie?
Okay, persons are asking, how will your administration, if it forms the next government, advocate for pension plans, especially for those who are self-employed?
Team JLP, you can have the first go.
I'm not sure I heard the question clearly, but what I can say is that the Jamaica Labour Party has a plan to ensure that all Jamaicans participate in the National Insurance Scheme. It is important to have a pension. It's important to have savings for your retirement. The Jamaica Labour Party will undertake the most comprehensive reform of our social safety net that has ever been undertaken. We will ensure that we merge statutory deductions to ensure that we have better compliance and more seamless allocation of the resources. We will ensure that there is a new social pension for our elderly who are neither on PATH nor on NIS and have no other source of income. We will ensure they can have a dignified retirement. We will also make sure that more persons get onto pension by putting new systems in place so that our domestic workers and other informal workers are more easily have their employers address their NIS coverage. It's important to have an income through life. It's important to save for your pension. We will also introduce a new flexible framework to ensure greater mobility and flexibility for investments in pension plans. This will ensure we have more effective, well-funded pension funds to deliver dignified retirement.
Thank you so much. Team PNP, your rebuttal?
Well, the first thing you need to do before you can get a pension is have a job, so that you can actually have a pension at retirement. And one of the things that we're noticing, not only because of COVID, but because the JLP has really not diversified the sectors and industries, is that a lot of Jamaicans are without work. COVID has only exacerbated that. What the PNP intends to do in terms of our COVID recovery plan is to make sure we revolutionize of our major farmers across the island because they don't have water. The other thing that we're going to do with our rent-to-home starts, we are going to build 130,000 homes for everyone across the sector. And that construction alone will give people jobs, plumbers, masons, lintman, steelman, and we will make sure that people will have something that they can retire to. So when you talk about pensions, and let's not get it twisted, the PNP, in terms of revolutionizing NIS, was under the Portia Simpson-Miller administration.
Vashan has the next question to Team JLP.
There have been complaints about telecoms providers, dropped calls, poor internet, you name it. What's your plan to hold the telecoms providers accountable for the quality of service provided to customers?
It is a vexed issue. I think all of us here would have experienced the reality of a call dropping and just the real frustration. It is something that we have, as a government, been engaging our telecom providers through the OUR. We have engaged them in relation to ensuring that they live up to their service standards. And part of what we plan to do is to strengthen the OUR to ensure that they can hold these utility providers more accountable. From where I sit at the Ministry of Industry, Commerce, Agriculture and Fisheries, we've also called in our telecom providers to look at how we can utilize them to incorporate in smart agricultural practices, to help our fishermen in relation to communication when they're far out at sea. So we've already started that engagement process. There have been some commitments from our telecoms providers in relation to advanced investments, what they plan to do to strengthen their networks, and we plan to hold them to account. We have used the Consumer Affairs Protection Agency to really ensure that where complaints come in, they're followed up on in relation to our telecom providers. What more needs to happen? We believe that telecoms is what will really help us revolutionize something like agriculture. That is why in this manifesto we have put $3 billion to our agricultural sector to help our farmers, to help our fishermen, to invest in smart technology across the sector.
And let me just remind my colleague on the opposite that we produced 100,000 new jobs in response to the concerns
so much,
around
Dr.
jobs.
Tufton, your time is up.
4.5 years of
Dr. Tufton, your time is up. PNP, it's your rebuttal, 45 seconds. Team PNP, your rebuttal.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that people need to understand again is that under the PNP administration, we revolutionized the telecom sector. We freed it up. We brought cell phones. We dismantled the monopoly at the time of telecommunications of Jamaica, and we made sure that people had options in terms of having telecoms. Another thing that we did, because ordinary Jamaicans could not actually buy a car, and we revolutionized the used car system where you can have taximen, etc., going through. And we created the Universal Access Fund. That fund had money to do the kind of broadband, and it had the money to actually put the access points in place. What has happened to it? Why hasn't it happened? The PNP was putting those plans across the country. What has happened to it under the JLP? It has stalled.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hannah. Where did the time go? It's now time for closing statements, and based on the earlier coin toss, Team PNP will go first.
My fellow Jamaicans, there are simple facts that cannot continue to escape us. Marketing and PR won't change the reality. In fact, COVID and the other pandemic from which we suffer, crime and violence, have only made it clearer that what is needed now is a set of hands, hearts, and minds that place you at the center of all that we do. We deliberately designed the development of our manifesto to allow you to participate, causing the greatest, widest level of consultation ever in the history of this country, so that each citizen can participate in the design of the blueprint to develop your Jamaica. We use this opportunity to speak to the person behind the eyes and the ears watching and listening to these presentations, to say we understand that the Jamaican family has never been at greater risk. We use this opportunity to say that we appreciate the struggles that you have been going through, and that 58 years hence since political independence, it is time for that turbocharge to take you forward, so that each man, each woman, each tertiary student, each professional, the police, the nurses, and other public servants and civil servants can have, in the land of their birth, all of the opportunities to give them the realignment of their future compared to what has happened over the last 55 months. We have signed not only a code of conduct, but our own work ethic referred to earlier by Dr. Campbell, and that we say to each of you, we have your hearts, your minds, and your future at the center of all that we do. It is time, put simply, for us to build your Jamaica, not a Jamaica where one man has 24 hectares of land to grab, not a Jamaica where a minister in charge of the environment
Thank you so
has
much,
sequestered.
Mr. Price. Thank you so much. Team JLP, you can go ahead with your closing statement.
My Jamaican family, we're in challenging times, maybe the most challenging times that we've ever experienced as a nation. But I want you to know that the Jamaica Labour Party, led by Andrew Michael Holness, is here for you. We've been working hard to take us all safely through what is the most serious pandemic that has hit the world in 100 years. And we know you've been seeing the efforts. These times, they require leadership. We have a strong leader. They require unity. Unlike others, we have a unified party. They require clarity and certainty. Unlike others, we have a plan. We have set out a 10-point COVID recovery plan that sets a clear vision for the short, medium, and long-term efforts we need to make to recover stronger, to build back our economy, to build back the strength of our societies, to advance our digital agenda, to ensure that we're able to move forward in financial inclusion, diversifying our economy, and ensuring that we have a transformed education system so our children have the best start. We've come to you with our list of achievements, not to boast or to pretend that there isn't more work to do, but because we know that it's important to distinguish ourselves from the other party. They're great at talk, they're great at promises, they're great at telling you what they think you want to hear. But we're saying, say no to PNP. Vote for the Jamaica Labour Party on September the 3rd. Exercise your democratic right. The EOJ has taken extensive efforts to make sure you can do it safely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I want to say thank you to both teams and to our viewers and listeners. You can join us again this Thursday, August 27 at 9 p.m. for the debate focusing on finance and the economy between Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark of the JLP and opposition spokesman on finance, Mr. Mark Golding of the PNP. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to our studio audience, our production crew, production and funding partners, and most of all, our viewers and listeners all across Jamaica and the diaspora. On behalf of the Jamaica Debates Commission, we're asking you to observe all the health and safety guidelines from the Ministry of Health, not just on Election Day.
I'm Dennis Brooks.
I'm Marlon Campbell.
I'm Floyd Green.
And I'm Garth Williams.
Yes. Thank you, Cuz, for that. That's difficult sometimes because I had to mute it in order to let the thing play. But what I was actually saying a while ago is that as for who won, I didn't say like which party won, but I would say that who stands out. You can hear me now. You must can hear me. Can you hear me? Let me see. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? As Christopher, can you hear? Can you hear? Yes, yes, you can hear. Yeah, what happened is that um, it was muted before because I had to let the video play. So that is why I forgot to take it off. But my question was, which party do you think won? That is for persons to answer that question. Which party do you think won? But I'm looking at also which person that you think stood out in the whole debate. Who do you think stood out a bit more? I would say just looking in from the outside and just looking straight and just watching the debate in a big sort of bubble, I would say that Lisa Hanna actually stood out very strong. There's a level of compassion, a level of sincerity. Now, there's a big difference sometimes with how somebody come across and how they actually are, you know. And people are good at acting. I mean, you're watching movies. Sometimes you say that person acts very great. That person acts very beautiful, or so. But it is who come out very strong in the sense of sincerity and being genuine. I one would say it's Lisa Hanna as well. For the PNP side, Raymond Price, very passionate guy. Don't follow him that much. Don't know much about him. The other person, which is Dr. Dayton Campbell, yes, he stands his ground. I sort of didn't like that Jody and Ferren sort of link, but anyway, that's politics. Things happen during the time. What shows Lisa knowledge and rounded. Yeah. I think one of the things about Lisa Hanna though is that many people may have their criticism about the videos and the dub plate, and she up and down, and she on social media. But one of the things about social media is that you're actually getting in touch with people because you're able to hear from people from all over the world, hear from people from all different sides, people that you will not be able to touch physically. And with the whole aspect of social distancing, social media bring you closer. So social media create a level of inclusivity, whereby you're able to hear what people are saying, read their comments. One of the powerful things, of course, when someone is in the media light and they have social media activity and very active on it, in their quiet time, they can actually spend a lot of time and read the comments, what people are actually saying, and respond to that. And they feel a pulse. You know, years ago, people used to feel a pulse. How they felt the pulse? How do politicians felt the pulse? By being with the people, engaging with the people as much as possible. Social media, unfortunately or fortunately, has changed the tables, have spun things around, whereby now people are in touch at the tip of their finger. Right? People are in touch at the tip of their finger. And in regards to Minister Kamina Smith, great lady, met her, interviewer, genuine at the same time, but comes out across a bit robotic to a certain way. Likewise with Minister Floyd Green, very sort of rigid. It's like they're falling in line with the particular script. You can see that people have rehearsed and people have actually fallen a lot with the things that they've achieved, and nothing is wrong with that. And the question is going to be, is it about the depth and the substance, or is it going to be the flair? Because when I say flair, sometimes you've got to think about this. Whenever there is, and if you think about the Titanic, when the Titanic was going down, and when any ship or boat is going down or so, there's this thing whereby the flare comes out. Now, of course, flare in that space is F-L-A-R-E. Yeah, flare attracts attention and go, and it goes up, and then other people can say, there's a boat there, there's a Titanic, that's over there, that's where the light is. The flare, F-L-A-R-E. But at the same time, one can actually say in politics as well, you got the flare. But the flare doesn't mean to say the flare sometimes detract away from the substance, and then it creates attention, right? But it's when the attention is grabbed and then one gets down into it, then one can see if there's any substance. So those are my views, if anything. And as to who won, I don't know actually who won, to be honest with you. Didn't get all of it to a certain extent. We'll have to review it. But I think it's leaning more towards the PNP side, though, if anything. And the funny thing about Jamaican politics is that people sometimes, doesn't matter who actually is debating. If you're a PNP, you're a PNP, you're going to see your PNP. If you're a JLP, you're a JLP, you're going to see your JLP, really. So therefore, sometimes it doesn't even make sense what debate. And as someone said earlier, a debate is just a debate, just sharing ideas, just a debate. And could that be what it is? Just another debate. So next one, which will be coming on, and I've got let me go to my good mate Facebook post, which he sent to me. The next one will be on the 27th, dealing with economic issues with PNP Mark Golding, Shadow Minister of Finance, and Dr. Nigel Clark. So this is where you're going to get some more substance in as well. So those two of them by themselves. And then, of course, the final one will be this Saturday, the 29th of August, with Dr. Peter Phillips and Andrew Holness. Okay? So without further ado, I was trying to see if I could get Mr. Winston Barrett, if he's around. Winston, are you around? Let me see if he's coming on. Let me see. Nah, man. Now you're no, you're not. No, you're alive, man. You're alive. You're alive. You're alive. If you come on, you're alive. Let me just call him and see if he's around. Just 1 second. And if anybody wants to be on, hello. Let me see something. Okay, that's that. Anyway, guys, have a good night and stay blessed till it comes. Let me just see if there's any comments. One, two. One of the things that I do find very interesting though is Jamaicans tend not to want to engage in politics on a public platform or to discuss it. I find that very interesting and very strange, and I think it is something that has got to be broken, because everybody's very hush. They'll speak about it with their friends and with their mates, but they don't like to come out publicly and to speak, because they all talk about these backlash as well. So much backlash. I think it needs to stop. Yeah, you guys need to stop that. You need to come out and speak, man, and feel free. Speak about issues. But I understand at the same time that there can be repercussion, unnecessary. Why repercussion? For speaking your views and to share your thoughts. That is something else. Just my 2 pence right there, because I've seen it a lot. That's why it's difficult to get people to come and talk on politics. Most people are saying, "Oh, I don't want to talk about that because very rare. I don't want to talk about that." Well, what can I say? Man for chat, man. Peace out. Good night.